How's it going, everyone? Data here with a late night data cast as the Colorado Avalanche are through to the 2022 Stanley Cup Final after sweeping the Edmonton Oilers out of the Western Conference Final. I gotta say, I'm not surprised that the Avalanche took it, but I'm surprised that it was a sweep. They're through the Stanley Cup Final for the first time since 2001. They are a perfect 2-for-2 when reaching the Stanley Cup Final in their franchise's history. Can they make it 3-for-3? I think they will, no matter who wins over in the East. Before getting to the series breakdown, just what a game 4 it was as well. I have my own notes that I took throughout the game. As a whole, the series, it was a lot of scoring. We were hoping it would be it was not a barn burner every night, but we were hoping it was going to be a pretty offensive series and kind of expecting it to be so. Game 1, 8-6, that's what everybody expected. 4-0 shutout in game 2. I think that's what really killed the Oilers there. 4-2 heartbreaker in game 3, and then it doesn't get worse than an overtime loss in game number 4 to get swept out, but I think it was already pretty much too late by then. The Avalanche outscored the Oilers 22-13 throughout the series, averaging 5.5 goals a game versus 3.25 goals a game for the Oilers. Game 4 was a great one, 6-5 as I mentioned. Artturi Lehkonen getting the winner in overtime, sending his team to the Stanley Cup Final for the second consecutive time, as he did for the Montreal Canadiens against Vegas last year. Darren Helm winning the faceoff to make that play happen, just like he was the catalyst to put his team through the next round, just as he was against the Blues in the Western Conference semifinal. So really great to see that. Darren Helm, I feel like he's been in the NHL forever. It's really cool to see him still getting it done and having such an influence in the series. In the series itself, Cale Makar, we're going to the points now on the Avalanche. He did, 3 assists in the series against the Blues. People were saying that it was just a one-round type of thing, but he says, hold up. 9 points in 4 games for Cale Makar. He exploded again offensively, cooled down, exploded again in round number 3 here. Great to see that he is able to command the play so much, skates so well, breaking up McDavid on the rush. Not many people can do that and match that speed, sometimes even skating backwards. He was a real good match for McDavid. Mikko Rantanen, goal per game, 6 points in 4. Artturi Lehkonen, 6 and 4. Landeskog, 6 and 4, McKinnon 5, Devon Tays 5. So Kadri 4 and 3 as well. You can count him as above a point per game. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players at a point per game or better, or actually 7 players at above a point per game. I think the big series changer has to be that hit on Nazem Kadri from Evander Kane. I definitely do think that it was a suspendable hit. I don't know if I'd say it was much more than 1 game. Maybe, I don't know, I wouldn't say it was like a 10 game type of thing, especially not in the playoffs. I think 1 was fair enough. Maybe with the history you could have stretched it to 2 or 3. I never thought there was ever going to be more than 2. Nonetheless, he only scored 2 points in 3 games, but he was like almost goal per game in the playoffs. His not being in the lineup was a huge loss for the Oilers, as after McDavid and Draisaitl, Hyman 3 goals, 4 points in 4 games, that's nice. Nugent Hopkins as well, okay, that's 2. Darnell Nurse didn't score, but he had 3 assists. After that, it really drops off. McLeod had 2 goals, but only 3 other goal scorers on the entire team for the Oilers in the series. Defense, you can't expect them too much, but you gotta have the depth if you're going to be a Stanley Cup finalist. Yamamoto, yes, only 2 games, so I'll give him that, granted, but Foegele, Puljujarvi, no goals from these guys, just 1 assist even. I know they're not playing a ton of ice time, and I know McDavid and Draisaitl are the guys, but you gotta have a little support when it comes to the depth. And you can also add this to Evander Kane's resume of really not helping out his own team when they need him. So that's just looking at the points there. McDavid did what he could. Draisaitl had, I think, was it 3 or 4 primary assists in game number 4. Wasn't doing as much in the first few games as he did in game number 4 comparatively, but still was always in the mix. But that's just when we're thinking about the points. Let's start to think about this on a bit of a deeper level. The Colorado Avalanche in games 1, 2, and 4 really dominated play. Well, maybe not really dominated, but they had the majority of the expected goals for. In game number 3, in which the Avalanche won 4-2, the Oilers actually had 68% of the 5-on-5 expected goals for. The Avalanche, with only 32%, score 4 goals. So game 3, I think, was the real killer. In game 3, even the Mike Smith saved 0.5 goals above expected, yet the Avalanche still took it. So I think that it was the bigger problem beyond Mike Smith. Yes, in Game 4, fell apart a little bit, allowing almost 3 goals above expected. Game 1, allowing 3.3 above expected. Yes, that was an issue, but I think the bigger issue was the lack of depth scoring on the Oilers. And I said this at the beginning of the series, neither goalie I thought was really going to necessarily be above 0. Both goalies were probably going to be in the negatives. It was going to be which one was more in the negatives. Darcy Kemper wasn't necessarily looking great. Pavel Francouz was looking, pretty good. In Game 3, 0 point, quick math here, 0.8 goals saved above expected. But then in Game 4, 1.3 allowed above expected. So give and take, it was just that it was not great, but it was better, and that's all that it took. You didn't have to be average or even above average. When you have the players playing as they are, when you have Mike Smith being a little shaky, and when you have players capitalizing and converting, despite having only 32% of the expected goals for, you don't need to have elite goaltending, and that's where the Oilers fell apart a little bit. Game 4 was tight. That was their closest that they came. They dropped the lead. Bit of a weak call, I do have to say, on the Derek Ryan penalty there that allowed the Avalanche to tie the game up and send it to overtime. Was it a high stick on Lehkonen? These are questions that we can think about, but the deeper underlying cause of the loss of the series for the Oilers was not that third period in game number 4. It was already happening much before then. So those are just my thoughts on the series as a whole. The Avalanche have always been my second team, so I'm very happy to see them in the finals. I definitely think that they're going to win the Stanley Cup, no matter who they're playing against in the Eastern Conference. That's still going to be a good series over there, but ever since they went up by a game or 2 over the Flames, I said I'm on the Avalanche all the way in terms of my prediction. I had the Flames to win the Cup at the beginning of the playoffs. That was before some different things happened. As time went on, I changed my prediction. I've been riding with the Avalanche ever since the second round. But that's neither here nor there. So finishing thoughts here, I guess, just to say, Draisaitl, man, I'm excited to hear. I'm very curious to hear. That should be the word. I'm very curious. It's going to hurt when I hear it, but I'm very curious to hear the list of injuries that he has going right now. Probably get some surgeries over the offseason or something, and he was still one of the most dominant players on the ice, just second to Connor McDavid. Hyman did very well this series. He was very involved in the play. Point per game is great. You don't have to be 2 points a game like Makar or whatever to be considered a catalyst and a noticeable player, I guess, for lack of a better term. But he did very well. It's going to be very interesting to see now going to the Avalanche how they continue to cope with some injuries. With Nazem Kadri, he's out for the rest of the series. If the Eastern Conference Final goes long, he can rest up some more. But after getting that surgery, I doubt he comes back in the postseason. So that means increased roles for a guy like JT Compher, who he scored 2 goals. Was it in game 3? But either way, he's able to do that. Nichushkin's been playing well. Cogliano, I really want him to get a cup. That would be great for Cogliano and Helm. That would be nice to see them getting another cup. Eric Johnson, Jack Johnson, seeing them win Stanley Cups, that would be fantastic as well, on top of all the stars. And of course, Arturi Lehkonen. As a Canadiens fan, I'm very happy to see Arturi Lehkonen thriving. A very, very good deadline pickup. He cost a pretty penny, a high draft pick, and Justin Barron. The Canadiens are very happy with that return, but it was tough to let Lehkonen go, and it was because he can do stuff like this. 6 points in 4 games throughout the series. If we look at the entirety of just the playoffs, he is, where is he in the scoring? Is he even up here? There he is, 24th in scoring. But hey, 11 points in 14 games. Very offensive postseason in general, as the top 5 all have well over a point per game. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the Rangers series as well, as they have a lot of offense. Looking at the top, let's say 15 scorers, only 1 from the Tampa Bay Lightning being Nikita Kucherov. So if the Rangers make it through to the Stanley Cup Final against the Avalanche, Colorado will be facing the team with the best offense throughout its lineup that they've seen so far, I believe. Yes, McDavid and Draisaitl count for like 8 players, but to have Zibanejad, Fox, Kreider, Panarin, even the kid line and all that, even Andrew Kopp is doing amazing. That's going to be an interesting challenge for the Avalanche. So let me know your thoughts on this Avalanche and Oilers series. Was it just a blowout? Was it actually closer than it seems? What are the Oilers' plans for the offseason going to be now? I don't think it's going to be any major changes. I think they're going to run it back with some different tweaks, kind of like the Leafs, where they're going to run it back around their stars. McDavid and Draisaitl, after a Western Conference Final appearance, they're content enough to stay for another year or two before any kind of bombshells start to drop on the Oilers. Regardless, the Avalanche are through. Who do you think they would prefer to face, and who do you think it might be, as the Rangers are currently leading the Lightning 2-1? So thank you very much for taking the time to listen. Just want to break down my thoughts quickly, going through the analytics of all these things, showcasing what kind of series it was, going through the performances that I saw as a viewer. I hope that you enjoyed it as well. It was a fun series, too short unfortunately, but it was a fun one. Be sure to leave your thoughts down below. Drop a like if you are excited for the Stanley Cup Final, as well as taking a look around the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. You'll be made aware of all of these breakdown type videos, as well as our NHL 22 franchise mode series with the new series starting soon, and much more. So take a second to check it out, and we'd love to have you join the team. Thank you once again for taking the time to listen, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the next one.